They say elephants don't cry. But the day Jack Turner found Marlow half paralyzed beside a poisoned waterhole, the giant bull looked at him and begged. Not for rescue, not for mercy, but for one impossible thing. Don't leave me. Jack had no backup. No working radio, no weapons that could stop the poachers already circling in the hills. Yet as Marlow's trunk trembled toward him, Jack understood one truth. If he walked away, the elephant would die alone. So he stayed. And minutes later, he realized the men who poisoned Marlow were already closing in. And they weren't coming for Jack. They were coming to finish what they'd started. Jack Turner felt the desert heat before he saw the body. The late afternoon sun had already begun to slide behind the ragged Arizona foothills, but the ground still shimmered with the leftover burn of 100 unforgiving degrees. Dust hung low in the air, stirred into thin spirals by the faintest breeze, like the desert itself was holding its breath. Jack took 3 steps closer to the shape sprawled near the poisoned watering hollow, and the weight in his chest dropped, heavy, sinking, familiar. Marlow was still alive. The elephant's massive gray bulk lay twisted on one side, legs locked stiff, ribs heaving in uneven, broken rhythms. His skin, normally coated with a soft layer of red dust, was slick with sweat and streaked where the poison had begun to take hold. But it was the eyes that stopped Jack cold, wide, glassy, fearful. They followed him, tracking every inch of his movement the way a drowning man watches the shore slipping farther away. Jack crouched beside him, pushing aside bits of brittle brush. "Easy, boy," he whispered, though his voice didn't feel steady enough to calm anything, not even himself. Marlow's trunk twitched, the tip trembling violently before it lifted 2 inches off the ground, then fell again. That tiny reach, so small it could have been missed by anyone who didn't know him, pressed right through Jack's ribs. It looked like a plea. No, Jack realized as he leaned in closer. It was a plea. Not save me. Something deeper, more human than he ever expected to see in an animal's eyes. Don't leave me. A hot gust swept across them, carrying the sour metallic scent of the contaminated water and the stench of something dead nearby. Jack scanned the perimeter. Small birds, a jackrabbit, even a fox lie scattered around the shallow pond, all victims of the same poison. Whoever set this up hadn't been careless. They'd crafted a trap, calculated it, left it here knowing elephants would come to drink during the late-day heat. Jack swallowed hard. Poachers. Professionals. By the methodical way the wildlife had fallen. They'd be back, and they'd expect Marlow to be helpless when they arrived. His jaw tensed. He'd seen the aftermath of poachers before, the carved-out faces, the tusks ripped from still-breathing animals. Years ago, when he first volunteered at Whisper Ridge Sanctuary, those images had nearly made him quit. Today, kneeling beside Marlow, they came back so vividly he could almost smell fresh blood in the sand. Marlow's eye focused on him, a soft, desperate sound rattling from deep in his throat. Jack rested a hand against the side of his face. Even through the thick hide, he felt the faint tremor, the body fighting to stay conscious, fighting the toxin inch by inch. "I'm right here," Jack murmured. "I'm not going anywhere." But the words caught in his throat because he knew what protocol demanded. Call in the vet team, mark the location, retreat to a safe perimeter, do not remain with a compromised animal during active poaching threat. That was the rule, the sensible thing, the thing that would keep him alive. He'd obeyed rules before, until the day one of them cost a man his life. The memory hit him like a fist. Sam's face, ash-covered, panicked, flashed behind his eyes. The wildfire had been closing fast, and evacuation orders were absolute. Leave the injured, retreat immediately. Jack had followed the command. Sam never made it out. Jack's lungs tightened even now at the thought. He'd never forgiven himself. Now here was Marlow, alive but fading, asking with everything he had left for Jack not to walk away. Not again. A low groan rolled from the elephant's chest. Jack leaned closer, just in time to see Marlow attempt another weak raise of his trunk. It hovered for a heartbeat, trembling violently, then collapsed into the dirt with a soft thud. The movement shouldn't have meant much, barely more than a muscle spasm, but to Jack, it felt like a hand reaching back from a ledge. "Hang on, big guy," he whispered, brushing away flies gathering at the corner of Marlow's mouth. "I've got you!" Behind him, a sudden crack in the distance snapped through the stillness, something stepping on a branch. Jack froze. There were no patrol teams nearby, no hikers, nothing but desert scrub, distant red rock, and a silence too deliberate to be natural. He scanned the horizon. Nothing moved, but he could feel eyes on him, watching, waiting, evaluating. Poachers didn't always need to fire a shot. Sometimes their presence alone was a warning. Marlow groaned, pulling Jack's attention back. The elephant's breathing was growing shallow, his eyelids fluttering. Jack squeezed his shoulder, trying to ground both of them. The sun dipped lower, its last golden sweep lighting up Marlow's face and casting Jack's shadow long across the sand. The moment felt suspended, fragile, precious, terrifying. Jack exhaled shakily. He couldn't leave. Not when Marlow was still aware. Still fighting, still looking at him like the world held only two souls in this entire desert. He pressed his forehead briefly against Marlow's. "I'm staying," he whispered. "I promise you, I'm staying." His voice cracked, part vow, part confession, part desperate attempt to rewrite history. A breeze swept across the hollow then, cooler this time, almost as if the desert itself approved. And in that small, charged moment, as Jack sat there clutching Marlow's heavy trunk in both hands, the story shifted. Not toward rescue yet, not toward survival, but toward something quieter and more profound. A man choosing to shoulder the weight of another life, despite the danger pressing in from every side. Jack looked directly into the camera he wore clipped to his vest, a habit for documenting rescue operations, and spoke softly because he knew the people watching would understand the significance of what came next. "If you're still with us, you're part of a remarkable community here at Whispering Hearts, where real stories of extraordinary animal connections come to life. Every subscriber helps us share more heart-touching moments that reveal the power of compassion across species. Don't forget to hit subscribe, because the journey ahead is one you'll feel long after the story ends." The wind shifted again, carrying with it a faint rumble far off. A vehicle engine, maybe. Or several. Jack didn't move. He didn't even turn his head. He simply slid his hand along Marlow's cheek, making sure the trembling animal felt it. "I'm right here," he repeated, stronger this time. "I'm not leaving you, Marlow." Above them, the sky dimmed to a deep rust pink. The first star blinked awake, and somewhere just beyond the ridge, danger was already moving closer. Jack set his jaw. He wouldn't run. He wouldn't abandon Marlow to die alone. Not again. He shifted his weight, settled into the dust beside the dying elephant, and prepared for whatever the night would bring. Hours before Jack found Marlow collapsed by the poisoned waterhole, the day had begun the way so many others did at Whisper Ridge Sanctuary, quiet, dry, and deceptively peaceful. The sun had just crested over the distant buttes, casting long shadows across the scattered mesquite trees. Jack was checking fence lines with Finn, the 21-year-old intern whose enthusiasm often outpaced his judgment. Finn walked ahead, humming to himself, swinging a metal detector they used to scan for old snares left by trespassers years ago. "You think we'll see Marlow today?" he called back. "He's been wandering near the East Ridge again." Jack tightened the strap on his water canteen. "If he wants to be seen, we'll see him," he said. "You don't hurry an elephant." Finn grinned, about to respond, when his foot caught on something and he stumbled forward. Jack's hand shot out instinctively, grabbing the back of Finn's vest. The young man froze just inches from a nearly invisible tension wire stretched between two rocks. At the far end was a triggered mechanism, small, crude, but unmistakably a trap. A spring-loaded blade glinted beneath a thin cover of dirt. Finn's breath hitched. "Is that?" Jack knelt to examine it. "Yeah," he said. "It's a poacher's snare. This one's meant for animals, or anyone unlucky enough to step where they shouldn't." He cut the wire with a careful motion, disarming the mechanism. A cold ripple of unease slid down his spine. Traps like these didn't appear out of nowhere, especially not this deep into sanctuary land. Whoever set them had crossed the border of the protected zone deliberately, and recently. Finn swallowed hard. "Should we call Sarah?" Jack opened his mouth to answer when the radio crackled to life with Sarah Lynn's voice, tense and sharper than usual. "Jack, Finn, are you two near the South Basin? I need you to listen closely. We got a message from Miguel." Jack stood, motioning Finn closer. "What kind of message?" "Trouble." Sarah's voice dipped lower. "Miguel says a crew came across last night. Not the amateurs we sometimes scare off. These men are organized. They use a botanical poison from across the border, paralyzes large mammals without killing them outright. Tusks stay intact that way." Finn gave a shaky laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "You're saying they poison the animals first, then come back to cut the tusks?" Jack didn't need Sarah to confirm. He'd seen those kinds of operations during his earlier work with regional wildlife teams, ruthless men who prided themselves on leaving clean ivory behind. The animals' suffering was irrelevant to them. Sarah continued, "I need you two to check the waterholes on your route, but stay alert. If you see anything, and I mean anything, you radio me immediately and head back." "Copy that," Jack said, though a knot had formed in his stomach. They moved forward slowly, Finn keeping his eyes on the ground now, every step cautious. The closer they got to the South Basin, the more Jack felt something was wrong. The desert itself seemed muted. No birdsong, no rustle of lizards darting across sand. Even the occasional cry of a distant hawk was absent. Then Finn pointed, voice barely above a whisper. "Jack, look." Tracks. Fresh ones. Deep, heavy treads from an off-road truck. Two sets, side by side, curving toward the largest watering hollow. And beside them, boot prints. Not the lightweight soles of hikers, but the thick, heavy pattern favored by men who didn't want to slip on loose terrain. Jack followed the trail with his eyes and felt his pulse quicken. The boot print stopped right at the edge of the waterhole, as if the men had stood there for a long moment, looking down at something. Then the prints doubled back toward the same direction they'd come from. "They were scouting," Jack muttered, checking which animals came to drink. Finn moved closer to the lip of the shallow pool. "Jack, the water looks wrong." It did. Even at a distance, Jack could see a faint, oily sheen on the surface. Something about the smell stung his nostrils. Bitter, chemical, artificial. Along the bank, several small animals lay dead. A fox, 2 desert quails, a handful of mice. All fallen around the same time, all from the same poison. A chill coiled around Jack's spine, emphasizing the quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after something terrible happens. He didn't have to wonder long what or who the real target had been. Elephants use this basin often during the late-day heat. Marlow especially. He felt the first spike of dread then, sharp, slicing through his chest. Finn gasped suddenly and pointed further down the shoreline. "Jack, oh God, there's something there." Jack lunged ahead instinctively, boots sending small stones skittering, and when he saw the massive gray shape sprawled at the water's edge, he felt his throat close. Marlow. On his side, unmoving. Jack dropped to his knees beside him, shaking, calling his name once, Twice. Marlow's eyelids fluttered weakly. His trunk twitched. The faintest sound, half groan, half wheeze, escaped his throat. Finn swayed backward as if the air had knocked him down. "Is he alive?" "Barely," Jack said. "The poison's in him. Deep." He checked Marlow's breathing. Shallow, wheezing. His pupils responded, but slowly. The paralysis had already set into the hind legs. Soon, the rest of the body would follow. Finn grabbed his radio. "We have to call Sarah." "Now." Jack hesitated, that old instinct pulling at him. Protocol said yes. Immediate evacuation. Call the vet team, retreat to a safe distance. But Finn looked terrified, and Marlow's body kept twitching with uneven breaths. Jack forced himself to think clearly. "Call her," he said. "Tell her we found him alive. Tell her to get the team ready." Finn fumbled with the radio, his hands shaking. While he did, Jack scanned the ground again. The tracks around Marlow told a darker story, boot prints circling him closely, too closely, as if the poachers had already approached once but left him for later. They'd poisoned him to immobilize him, nothing more. They wanted the tusks clean when they cut them free. And they were likely watching, right now. Jack's gaze swept the horizon. A glint of metal far off on a rocky outcrop made his heart kick. A scope, a lens. He blinked, and it was gone. Finn's voice trembled over the radio. "Sarah, we found Marlow. He's alive, but he... Sarah? Sarah, do you copy?" Static hissed back, a harsh, pulsing interference. Sarah's voice broke through once. Faint, distorted. "Signal jamming. Jack, leave him..." Then nothing. Finn stared at the radio, horrified. "They're jamming us. Jack, they're..." "I know," Jack said quietly. The desert wind fell still as if listening, and then a new sound floated on the air, faint, distant, unmistakable. The low hum of an engine, not close, but moving. Toward them. Finn paled. "Jack, what do we do?" Jack placed a shaking hand on Marlow's head. The elephant's eye fluttered open just long enough to meet his. In that gaze was the same plea Jack would never forget. "Don't leave me." He exhaled, slow and steady, even as fear clawed inside him. "We do what we can," Jack said, "and we don't leave him alone." Because he'd already lived with the weight of abandoning someone once in his life, he wasn't going to carry that burden twice. Jack Turner had always believed there were two kinds of choices in a man's life. The ones he made because the rule book demanded it, and the ones he made because his heart refused any other path. As he knelt beside Marlow, the elephant's trembling breath pushing warm bursts of air against his forearm, he knew exactly which kind of choice stood in front of him now. The sun was sinking low, turning the desert sky into a wash of tangerine and rose. Finn hovered behind him, pacing tight circles like a kid trying to outrun fear. The radio still crackled uselessly, flooded with static from whatever signal jammer the poachers were using. Sarah's voice had vanished entirely. It felt like the world had shrunk to this hollow. Jack, Finn, Marlow, and the ominous silence stretching outward like a trap spreading its jaws. "Maybe we should drag him," Finn muttered, panic leaking into his words. "Like, roll him onto a tarp or something. Get him away from the water. Maybe that'll help." Jack didn't look up. He kept his palm against Marlow's cheek, grounding himself as much as the elephant. "You don't drag a 6-ton bull elephant," he said softly. "Even healthy ones can tear their own joints doing that, and Marlow," he exhaled, "he won't survive being moved. Not like this." Finn stopped pacing and stared out toward the horizon. "Jack, if we stay, those guys are coming back. You know that, right? They don't poison an elephant and just walk away." Jack didn't need the reminder. The tension in his shoulders had settled into something heavy and cold. He knew how these operations worked. Poison in the morning, paralysis by afternoon, tusks taken by night. Clean work, efficient, cruel. He pressed his hand harder against Marlow's cheek, feeling another tremor shoot through the elephant's body. "I know they'll be back," Jack said. "That's why we can't leave him here alone." Finn shook his head. "We call Sarah again. We try the emergency band. There has to be a way." Jack finally lifted his gaze to Finn, and the younger man froze at the look in his eyes. It wasn't anger, it was memory, a memory that lived too close to the bone. "Finn," Jack said quietly, "I've run before, once. I followed orders, turned my back on someone who needed me, and I've lived every day since wishing I hadn't." Finn swallowed. He'd heard pieces of the story, every firefighter in the region had. The wildfire up north, the sudden shift in wind, the trapped crew. Jack had been ordered to pull back. One of the men didn't make it out. Jack didn't talk about it often. But the silence that followed spoke enough. Marlow's trunk shifted weakly, brushing Jack's wrist like a whisper. Jack closed his eyes as the tiny movement nudged something open inside him. "He's still fighting," Jack said. "As long as he's fighting, I'm staying." Finn took a step closer. "But what about you?" Jack offered a sad half-smile. "This isn't about me." For a few seconds, all they heard was the rasp of Marlow's shallow breathing and the whisper of wind through brittle shrubs. Then Jack rose slowly, brushing dust from his knees. He walked to their supply pack, grabbed several metal stakes and a folded tarp, and returned to Marlow's side. "What are you doing?" Finn asked. Jack set down the gear. "Building shade. The temperature's about to drop, but we need to keep his body from dipping too fast. Poison like this, it messes with thermoregulation." Finn stared at him, torn between fear and admiration. "You really aren't leaving?" Jack paused, then did something unexpected. He unclipped his radio, held it in his palm for a moment, then reached down and set it on the ground beside Marlow. He switched it off, completely. No static, no hope for instructions, no protocols. Finn blinked. "Jack, wait. If we lose connection, Sarah won't be able to—" "She already can't reach us," Jack said. "They're blocking everything." He gestured toward the basin. "And they're watching. I guarantee it." Finn spun again, scanning the cliffs and shadows. "Where? I don't see anyone." "That's the point," Jack replied. "Men like this don't make themselves seen until it's too late." The young intern trembled slightly. "Then why aren't we getting out of here? Why are you—" Jack cut him off gently. "Finn, look at him." Finn reluctantly knelt. Marlow's eye, clouded, glassy, struggling to stay open, turned toward them with a slow effort. His trunk lifted again, no more than an inch, then dropped with a dull thud. It was barely a movement at all, but it was a movement directed at them. "That's not just pain," Jack said quietly. "He's asking us not to leave him. Animals know when they're alone. They know when they're dying, and he knows more than most." Finn's jaw clenched. For the first time, he really saw Marlow. Not as a safari attraction, not as a sanctuary resident, but as a being aware enough to beg not to be abandoned. A breeze carried the distant hum of another engine, faint but there, closer than before. Jack didn't flinch. He crouched beside Marlow, rested one hand on his forehead and whispered, "I'm here. I'm not leaving you." Then he looked at Finn. "You can go if you want. I won't blame you." Finn backed away as though he'd been struck. I can't just walk away from this." He scrubbed at his face with both hands. "But Sarah said—" "I know what she said," Jack murmured. "But sometimes the rule book wasn't written for the moment you're actually standing in." Finn hesitated. He looked from Jack to Marlow, then toward the empty horizon where the sound had emerged. Finally, with a shaky breath, he said, "Tell me what to do." They worked together to erect the tarp, anchoring it to stakes and tying it to a twisted mesquite tree. The shade wasn't perfect, but it shielded Marlow's head and upper torso. Jack soaked his spare shirt with the last of their water and draped it across the elephant's skull to keep heat from building too fast. "We'll need more water soon," Jack said. "He won't survive the night without it. Poison dehydrates them fast." Finn muttered, "The closest reserve tank is miles from here." "On foot." Jack wiped the sweat from his forehead. "We'll deal with it when we get there." A moment later, Marlow made a soft noise, a quiet, fractured rumble. Jack leaned down. "I hear you, buddy," he whispered. "Just hang in there." The sky deepened to red. Finn paced again. Jack stayed at Marlow's side, one hand always resting on him, as if he could anchor the elephant to the world through sheer will. The engine hum drifted closer again, then faded. This time, Finn heard it too. "Jack," he whispered. "They're circling." Jack nodded. "Let them. We're staying." And with those words, the promise he'd made in Chapter 1, the promise he'd whispered into the dying elephant's ear, became the turning point of everything that would follow in the long, dangerous nights ahead. Twilight in the Arizona desert had a way of playing tricks on the mind. The heat that scalded the earth all afternoon began to slip away, leaving behind a deceptive calm, an almost gentle coolness that made the shadows stretch longer and the silence feel too deep, too still, too expectant. As the last band of sunlight settled behind the black line of distant ridges, Jack Turner knew the real danger hadn't even started yet. He knelt beside Marlow again, adjusting the makeshift shade they'd rigged over the elephant's massive head. The top flapped lightly in the breeze, offering just enough cover to slow the rapid internal cooling that could destabilize Marlow's weakened system. The elephant's breathing was shallow, his ribs rising and falling with fragile effort. Occasionally, his trunk twitched as though reaching for something familiar, water, grass, or simply reassurance. Jack kept a hand on him whenever he could. It steadied Marlow. It steadied Jack even more. Finn paced behind them, his boots crunching over gravel. "It's getting dark fast," he muttered. "And that noise earlier, the engines, they'll come back. Jack, they're waiting for nightfall." Jack didn't disagree. Poachers preferred darkness. It made their approach quieter, their retreat easier, and their victims harder to spot until it was too late. But this situation was different. Their poisoned elephant hadn't died the way they expected. Their timing was thrown off, and they would correct that mistake tonight. "Gather any dry brush you can find," Jack said finally. "We'll need a fire, a big one, enough to make them think twice about walking straight in." Finn blinked at him. "Won't that also tell them where we are?" Jack gave him a tired, grim smile. "They already know where we are." The young man swallowed, then nodded and set off to collect wood. Jack watched him go before turning back to Marlow. The elephant's eye had shifted again, catching his movement. That same pleading gaze held him, aching, aware, impossibly human in its clarity. Jack ran his fingers gently across Marlow's forehead. "You stay with me now," he whispered. "We'll get through tonight, one breath at a time." A faint rumble escaped Marlow's chest, barely more than a vibration in the ground beneath Jack's knees. Pain, exhaustion, fear. Jack couldn't tell which. Maybe all three. But it told him Marlow was still there, still fighting. By the time Finn returned with an armful of dry branches, the desert sky had shifted fully into night, a moonless stretch of dark velvet speckled with early stars. The temperature dropped quickly. Jack worked to build the fire, striking sparks into the gathered brush until flames licked upward, casting orange light across Marlow's flank and the basin around them. Finn crouched beside him, staring into the fire as though it held answers. "What if they charge right in?" he asked. "What if they don't care about the fire?" "Then we make them care," Jack said. But even as he spoke, his chest tightened. He only had a shotgun with a few shells. Finn had nothing, and the worst part, if a firefight broke out, Marlow couldn't even roll away. He would be the first casualty. Jack forced the thought aside. Fear wouldn't help. Above them, the desert night came alive with sounds. Far-off coyote calls, the gentle tap of insects against the tarp, the rustle of wind skimming across sand. Normally, these were comforting, familiar to Jack after years working in wildlands. But tonight, everything felt sharper. Every noise held potential threat. Every silence felt loaded. An hour passed, then another. Jack and Finn took turns scanning the darkness beyond the firelight. More than once, Finn jerked at something, a flicker of movement, a shift in shadow. Most were false alarms. Some were not. At one point, Jack caught a glint, brief and cold, from the rocks north of the basin. A scope reflection? "Did you see that?" Finn whispered. "Yeah," Jack said. "Keep your voice low." "But they're too far to shoot from there, right?" Jack didn't answer. Because sometimes shooters didn't fire immediately. Sometimes they watched, measured, waited for the perfect opening. He checked on Marlow again. The elephant's eyelids drooped, heavy, with exhaustion, but he fought to keep them open whenever Jack moved away. His trunk gave another weak twitch toward Jack's knee as though calling him back. "I'm here," Jack whispered, leaning close. "I'm not going anywhere." The words anchored the moment, simple and steady. The same promise he'd made when he first found Marlow. But tonight, under the growing weight of darkness, the promise felt heavier, more binding, more dangerous. Finn sat down hard beside the fire. "Jack, I don't think I can do this. I'm not like you. I'm not a firefighter or a ranger. I'm just—" "You're here," Jack interrupted. "You care enough to be scared. That's more than most." Finn looked at him with wide, conflicted eyes. "When you said earlier about leaving someone once, was that true?" Jack swallowed tightly. The fire crackled between them, its glow pulling memories he usually kept locked away. "He was a friend," Jack said quietly. "A good one. We were fighting a wildfire that changed direction faster than anyone predicted. Command ordered us to pull back. I followed. He didn't make it out." Finn stared at him. "So you're staying because of that?" Jack shook his head. "No, I'm staying because Marlow knows he's dying if we leave him. You can see it. He's asking for someone to stay, and I won't abandon him the way I abandoned Sam." Finn closed his eyes. "I get it." Jack wasn't sure he did, but the boy stayed close, which was enough. A sudden crack split the night, sharp, unmistakable. A branch being stepped on, heavy, deliberate. Finn jerked upright. "Jack, someone's out there." "I know," Jack said, rising slowly. "Stay behind me." He moved toward the edge of the firelight, shotgun gripped tight. The darkness swallowed everything a few feet out, dense, silent, unreadable. A breeze carried the faint scent of diesel. Then another sound came. Low, drawn out, metallic. An engine turning over, somewhere beyond the ridge. Finn whispered, "Why aren't they coming closer?" "They want to see what we'll do," Jack said. "How scared we are. How armed." He paused. "And whether we'll leave." Marlow stirred behind him, giving a thin, trembling rumble. Jack turned back and knelt once more beside the elephant. He rested his hand firmly against Marlow's cheek. "I told you," he whispered. "I'm right here." The elephant blinked slowly, and for a moment Jack felt a strange calm settle between them. A connection that bypassed fear, bypassed reason, bypassed the long line of danger pushing steadily toward them. Finn sank down beside the fire, the flames reflecting off his uneasy face. And Jack, sitting beside a poisoned, half-paralyzed elephant, with poachers circling the basin and night stretching wide around them, felt his promise settle deeper into his bones. He wouldn't leave. Not now. Not ever. Whatever tomorrow brought her, they would face it, together. The engines faded again, swallowed by the desert night. But the danger had only begun. The first pale ribbons of dawn were just beginning to stretch across the sky when Jack Turner felt Marlow shift beneath his hand for the first time in hours. It wasn't much. A faint tightening of muscle, a tremor that rippled across the elephant's shoulder, but it was deliberate, intentional, a spark of life pushing through the fog of poison. Jack sat up straighter, exhaustion evaporating in an instant. "Finn," he whispered. "Finn, wake up." Finn jerked awake from where he had slumped near the fire, blinking fast as he tried to orient himself. Ash clung to his sleeves and his eyes were still swollen with lack of sleep. "What? What is it? Did you hear something?" "Not something," Jack said, voice tight with hope. "Someone. Marlow." They both turned toward the elephant. Marlow's trunk lifted, slowly, shakily, hovering several inches above the dust before sinking back down again. His head, which had been motionless for nearly 14 hours, shifted a fraction toward Jack. And then his eye opened fully, focusing with far more clarity than it had the night before. Finn covered his mouth. "Jack, he's coming back." Jack nodded, though his throat had tightened too much to speak. He leaned close to Marlow, gently brushing away the layer of dust that had gathered around his eye. "That's it, boy," he whispered. "You keep fighting. You hold on." Marlow's ear twitched, another sign the paralysis was loosening. But every small victory was shadowed by a heavier truth. The poachers who poisoned him would realize the same thing. They wouldn't wait forever. Finn must have sensed Jack's shift in focus. "Jack, do you think they'll try again this morning?" Jack stared at the horizon. The light was rising over the ridge where he'd seen that faint glint the night before. He didn't see movement yet, but he could feel it, an instinct born of wildfire, seasons, close calls, and years reading danger in the stillness of a landscape. "They'll come," Jack said quietly. "And soon." He stood and stretched his stiff knees, muscles screaming from the long night. Marlow's improvement was a miracle, but one with limits. "We need water," Jack said. "Real water. If he's going to keep fighting the poison, we have to keep him hydrated." Finn blinked. "We used all of ours last night." "I know." Jack scanned the terrain, mapping out distances in his mind. "There's a smaller waterhole 3 miles north. It's natural, so they wouldn't have poisoned it, but getting there means leaving Marlow alone." Finn hesitated. Then, "I'll go. You stay with him." Jack shook his head. "You don't know the path, and those men, if they're still out there." "Then we're out of options," Finn cut in, surprising both of them. "Jack, you're the only thing keeping Marlow calm. If he wakes up disoriented and you're gone, he'll panic, and that will kill him faster than anything." Jack stared at him, seeing something new behind the fear. Determination, the kind that grows only in moments that demand it. "You sure about this, kid?" Jack asked quietly. Finn swallowed. "No, but we can't stay here with empty canteens." Jack closed his eyes briefly. He hated this. Hated splitting up. Hated the idea of Finn walking into the open desert while poachers circled somewhere near. But water was life. For them and for Marlow. He reached into his pack, pulled out the only 2 tools that mattered, the last empty canteen and the small flare gun meant for emergency signaling. He handed both to Finn. "Take the narrow ravine route. It'll give you cover. And if you see anything at all, you fire that flare." Finn nodded, gripping the canteen like a lifeline. "I'll be back before the sun gets too high, I promise." Jack placed a hand on Finn's shoulder. "Just come back. That's enough." Finn jogged off, disappearing into the jagged line of rock and brush. Jack watched until he was gone, then turned back to Marlow. "You hear that?" he murmured. "Kid's braver than he knows." Marlow's trunk shifted again, brushing lightly against Jack's boot. A question, a need, a tether. "I know," Jack whispered. "Don't worry. He's coming back." For a while, the desert was quiet except for Marlow's gradually strengthening breaths. Jack used the time to reinforce their camp, dragging more brush to the fire pit, repositioning the tarp as the sun rose, watching the horizon with the unblinking focus of a man forced into survival mode. Hours passed, the heat climbed, and Finn didn't return. Jack checked the time again. Finn should have been back 30 minutes ago, maybe more. The shadows were shortening. Sweat began to drip from Jack's hairline. "Come on, kid. Where are you?" he muttered. Marlow gave a soft rumble, sensing the shift in Jack's body. Tension, unease, fear. Jack knelt and placed both hands on Marlow's head. I know, but he's late." Another rumble. This one deeper, more urgent, vibrating through Jack's palms. Jack looked up sharply. "Marlow, what is it?" The elephant was staring toward the north ridge, the same direction Finn had gone. His trunk curled, his breath quickened. A warning. Jack stood slowly, shotgun in hand, scanning the ridge. Sweat trickled down his spine. The fire crackled behind him. Then, a single piercing crack echoed across the desert. Sharp, metallic, a gunshot. Jack's heart slammed against his ribs. "Finn," he breathed. He grabbed his pack, slung the shotgun over his shoulder, and took one step toward the ridge. Just as another sound rose behind him, a growl of engines, multiple engines, coming fast. Jack spun back toward Marlow, the elephant's eye locked onto him, flooding with panic. Jack's throat tore as he whispered, "I'm not leaving you." Another gunshot cracked across the canyon. Closer. Jack's stomach twisted. He couldn't leave Finn. He couldn't leave Marlow. He was being split in two, ripped between loyalty and survival, and promises he couldn't bear to break. Engines roared closer. Dust plumes rose on the horizon. The poachers were coming. Finn was in danger. Marlow was helpless. Jack's entire world narrowed to the space between breaths. And then Marlow, paralyzed, poisoned, barely clinging to consciousness, did something impossible. He lifted his head, only inches off the ground, but high enough to look Jack in the eye. High enough to say, without words, "I'm alive. I'm here. Don't give up." Jack's breath broke. Marlow's fight echoed through him like lightning. And in that moment, Jack made a decision that would change everything. Jack Turner had been in life-or-death situations before. Wildfires that swallowed whole canyons in minutes, search and rescues where every tick of the clock could mean a heartbeat lost. But nothing had ever split him clean down the center the way this moment did. To his left, engines roaring closer, tires grinding over loose gravel as the poachers advanced. To his right, the ridge where Finn had vanished, where gunshots now echoed like cruel punctuation marks. Behind him, Marlow, trembling, barely able to lift his head, but fighting harder than any living creature Jack had ever known. He stood frozen for a beat that stretched far too long, the morning sun pressing against the back of his neck like a hand, forcing him to choose. Then Marlow tried again, lifting his head, a few inches higher this time. A pained grunt broke from his chest, low and rough, but there was intent behind it. Determination. "Jack," Finn's voice echoed in his memory. "He'll panic if you leave." Jack's chest tightened until pain flared under his ribs. "Damn it," he whispered. "Damn it, Marlow. What do I do?" Another engine revved, louder this time, close enough that Jack could hear shouting. Not English, not friendly. He didn't need translation to understand the tone. They'd spotted the smoke from his fire. They were closing in. He dropped to his knees beside Marlow, gripping the elephant's massive face. "I'm right here," he whispered. "I won't leave you. I promised." But Finn was out there. Finn, who was barely more than a kid. Finn, who had stepped up when every instinct told him to run. Finn, who might be lying somewhere bleeding or worse. Marlow blinked slowly, pupils quivering with effort. His trunk reached toward Jack, a ghost of the strength it once held, but the message was unmistakable. "Don't leave me." Jack bowed his head, throat tight. "I hear you. I'm here." He grabbed the shotgun, checked the chamber, 2 shells left, and positioned himself between Marlow and the direction of the engines. If the poachers came now, he'd have to stand his ground with what little he had. But he couldn't let Finn die. He couldn't let Marlow die. And then, the desert itself seemed to shift. From the ridge where Finn had gone, a flare burst into the sky, bright red, streaking upward before exploding into a sparkling crimson star. Jack's heart dropped. Not just because Finn had fired it, but because Finn had fired it early. Jack had told him to use it only if he saw danger, immediate, lethal danger. A second later, another gunshot cracked across the canyon. Closer, too close. Jack swore under his breath. He had no time to think, only to act. He bolted to the supply bag, tore it open, and grabbed a thick coil of emergency rope. Then he sprinted back to Marlow, hands trembling so violently he nearly dropped it. "Marlow," he whispered, breath hitching, "I need you to listen now. I'm not asking you to stand. I'm not asking you to move. But if you can lift your head, even a little, I can brace you." Marlow's eyelids fluttered, his breath ragged. Jack pressed his forehead against Marlow's. "I need you to help me save him, just this once. Then I'll be right back. I swear it." For 2 agonizing seconds, nothing happened. And then Marlow, miraculously, stubbornly, shifted again, just enough to brace his weight forward, enough for Jack to wedge the rope beneath his jaw and fasten it to the sturdy mesquite trunk behind him. A living anchor, a way to keep Marlow from slipping sideways if another paralysis wave hit. "Good boy," Jack whispered. "You're the strongest damn thing I've ever seen." The engines roared louder, so loud now that dust began to lift around the basin. Jack grabbed his shotgun, slung the strap over his shoulder, and sprinted toward the ravine route Finn had taken. He only made it 10 feet before Marlow's trunk slapped weakly against the ground. A panicked, desperate sound. Jack froze, turned, met the elephant's terrified gaze. "I'm coming back," Jack said, voice shaking. "I promise you, I'm coming back." Marlow let out a trembling rumble. Fear, grief, or trust, Jack couldn't tell. And then Jack ran. The ravine pathway was narrow, jagged, and without shade. The rising heat made the air shimmer. Twice he nearly slipped on loose rock. Every second wasted felt like another piece of Finn's life slipping away. "Finn!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the winding canyon. Nothing. He pushed harder, lungs burning. Finally, near a bend in the ravine, he saw something. A dark smear on the rocks. His stomach lurched. Blood. Fresh. "Finn!" he called again, voice cracking. A weak groan answered. "Jack!" Jack sprinted forward. There, half slumped behind a boulder, lay Finn, pale, shaking, clutching his arm. Blood seeped between his fingers. Jack dropped to his knees beside him. "Kid, what happened?" Finn swallowed hard. I saw them. 3 of them. They were coming up the ravine. I thought maybe I could go around them." He laughed weakly, a dry, painful sound. "Guess that was stupid." Jack unwrapped Finn's fingers. The wound was deep, a graze along the bicep. Painful, but survivable. "You're okay," Jack said firmly. "I've got you." Finn winced. "Jack, I'm sorry. I tried to get the water. I really did." Jack's throat constricted. "You did enough, kid. You did more than you should have." The echo of engines boomed again, this time closer to the basin where Marlow lay. Finn's eyes widened. "Jack, they're going to get to him." "No," Jack said, voice hardening. "They won't." He helped Finn to his feet, slinging the young man's good arm over his shoulder. Finn tried to walk, but staggered. Jack steadied him. "Lean on me." They moved together, Slow, painful progress, back down the ravine. Jack's mind ran wild with dread. With every step, he replayed the last look Marlow had given him. The terror, the trust, the plea. Multiple engines, multiple gunmen, and one paralyzed elephant with nothing but a rope and a promise to hold him steady. Jack pushed forward, gritting his teeth. "I'm coming back, Marlow," he whispered into the wind. "I'm coming back." And as they neared the mouth of the ravine, the unmistakable crack of a rifle split the air, followed by Marlow's roar, a roar so loud it shook the rocks under their feet, a roar that told Jack the battle had begun. Jack Turner pushed forward through the ravine with Finn leaning heavily against him, every step echoing with urgency. Marlow's roar still hung in the air, deep, primal, vibrating through the canyon walls like thunder. It wasn't a sound Jack had ever heard from him before. It wasn't fear, it wasn't pain, it was a call, a warning, a declaration that he was not going to die quietly. And if Marlow was roaring, it meant the poachers had reached the basin. Jack tightened his grip around Finn's waist. "Stay with me, kid. We're almost there." Finn gritted his teeth, words half strangled. "Jack, we're not going to make it in time." Jack didn't answer. He couldn't. Not with panic clawing at his ribs, each breath slicing sharper than the last. He forced himself to move faster, dragging Finn along the final stretch of the ravine until they burst out into the open basin. What he saw made every muscle in his body lock tight. 3 trucks were positioned around the basin, their engines idling, kicking up dust that hung in the air like smoke. Poachers, 7, maybe 8, moved with practiced precision, rifles raised, spreading out in a tightening arc around Marlow. Marlow himself was struggling to lift his body, his front legs pushed against the ground, trembling violently, sliding in the dirt. He couldn't rise, but he was trying. God, he was trying with everything he had left. His chest heaved, his trunk curled defensively, and his eyes locked onto Jack the moment he appeared. Fear. Relief. Plea. Jack felt his heart shatter. "I'm here, boy," he whispered. "I'm here." But the poachers heard the movement. One spun toward Jack, raising his rifle. Jack didn't hesitate. With one motion, he shoved Finn behind a large slab of rock jutting from the earth. "Stay down. Don't move." "Jack, I'll handle this," Jack hissed. "Don't you dare stand up." Finn's breath shook, but he nodded and slid behind the stone. Jack stepped out, shotgun in hand, positioning himself between Marlow and the advancing poachers. Dust swirled around him, the heat turning the air into a wavering curtain. His pulse hammered, his hands shook, but his stance was steady. One of the poachers, a tall man with a jagged scar running from cheek to jaw, walked forward, gun leveled at Jack's chest. He spoke with heavy accent, the words cutting and confident. "You move, you die. You stand, you die. Choose quickly." Jack lowered his shotgun slightly. Not in surrender, but in precision. He needed them listening, just long enough. "You're trespassing on protected sanctuary land," he called out, voice steady despite the adrenaline tearing through him. "You're surrounded by armed patrols. Walk away now and you won't be hunted for the rest of your lives." The men stared. Then, laughter, ugly, echoing. Scarjaw smirked. "There are no patrols. Your radio died last night. We jam it. No one is coming." Jack swallowed hard. "Then I guess it's just me." Scarjaw's expression sharpened. "One man protecting dying elephant. You are stupid. You give your life for animal." Jack stepped forward, raising the shotgun. "If that's what it takes." Marlow gave a sudden rumble behind him, loud, shaky, but rising in intensity. Even poisoned, paralyzed, and outnumbered, he was still trying to defend Jack. His trunk slapped the ground, his legs braced, and he forced his massive head upright. The poachers paused, startled. One muttered, "He shouldn't be moving." Scarjaw lifted his rifle again. "Shoot the man, then we take the tusks." Jack tightened his grip on the shotgun. 2 shells. That was it. He picked the center man, the one with the longest range rifle. Fired. The blast ripped through the basin, echoing off rock. The man stumbled backward with a cry, dropping his rifle and falling to one knee. Shouts erupted. Guns swung toward Jack. Dust exploded as bullets ripped into the ground near his feet. Jack dove behind a boulder, reloading with shaking hands. He was outmatched, outgunned, and one wrong move would bring the poachers down on Finn or Marlow. Another gunshot cracked. A bullet ricocheted so close to Jack's ear that the sound buzzed through his skull like a hive of hornets. Marlow let out a guttural roar, stronger this time, so fierce it rattled the dust off the tarp above him. He heaved again, pushing his weight against the rope Jack had anchored. The mesquite tree strained, branches creaking. The ground trembled beneath Jack's knees. "Come on, boy," Jack whispered from behind the boulder. "Fight, fight!" Another roar, another push, and then, miraculously, Marlow's front left leg locked under him. Gasps rippled through the poachers. "He's getting up!" No, he can't. Shoot him!" "Bring him down!" Rifles raised. "No!" Jack bellowed, bursting from cover. He fired his last shotgun shell into the air, not aiming to hit someone, but to stun them for a split second. It worked. The poachers flinched, and in that moment, Marlow rose. All 6 tons of him, shaking, swaying, nearly collapsing, but upright. The sight froze everyone. Even Scarjaw stumbled backward. Marlow raised his trunk high, higher than Jack had seen since before the poisoning, and released a roar so deep, so resonant, that the very earth seemed to vibrate with it. Dust lifted in waves. Rocks trembled. Birds shot from the trees in a frenzy of wings, and from the western ridge. An answering rumble rolled across the desert. Then another, and another. Jack's breath caught. No way! From the shadows of the western slope, massive shapes emerged. 1, then 3, then 5. A bachelor herd. Marlow's bachelor herd. Poachers shouted in panic. "Elephants! More elephants! Retreat! Retreat now!" The ground thundered as the herd charged toward the basin, ears spread wide, trunks raised, feet pounding like drums of war. The poachers scattered, sprinting back toward their vehicles. Engines revved, tires spun, dust clouds billowed as they fled the oncoming stampede. Within seconds, they were gone. Silence crashed into the basin after the trucks disappeared over the ridge. Jack stood frozen, chest heaving, shotgun empty, hands shaking uncontrollably. Marlow swayed but remained upright. The herd surrounded him protectively, touching him with their trunks, rumbling softly in greeting, checking him, steadying him. Jack walked toward him slowly, awe overwhelming every thought. Marlow turned his head, still weak, still trembling, and looked directly at Jack. A soft rumble escaped him. Relief, recognition. "Thanks." Jack touched his side gently. "You did it," he whispered. "You called them." Behind him, Finn stumbled out from the rocks, pale and shaking. "Jack, did we win?" Jack looked at the circle of massive elephants standing guard around their brother. He looked at the empty ridge where trucks had vanished. He looked at Marlow, still standing despite poison and pain. "Yeah," Jack said softly. "We won," because he refused to fall alone. The basin lay eerily quiet once the last of the poachers' engines had faded into the horizon. Dust still drifted in the air, settling slowly over the rocks and brush like the desert was trying to bury the violence that had nearly claimed them all. Jack Turner stood still, one hand resting on the side of Marlow's massive body, steadying, his own trembling more than the elephant's. Marlow, against every odd the world had thrown at him, remained upright, weak, swaying, leaning heavily against 2 bulls from his bachelor herd, but upright, alive. Finn limped toward them, clutching his injured arm and blinking hard against the sting of exhaustion and disbelief. "Jack, he's really standing," he whispered. Jack nodded slowly. Yeah, he is. The other elephants gathered even closer, their trunks touching Marlow's sides, his head, his back, a ritual of reassurance, recognition, and protection. A bond born from years of traveling together across harsh terrain. And yet Jack couldn't shake the feeling that some part of their formation, tight and defensive, was for him as well. He took a deep breath, letting the sound of rumbling elephant voices wash over him. "We need to get Finn treated," he said quietly, "and get Marlow help before the poison rebounds." Finn grimaced. "Radio's still down." Jack pulled out the device, clicked the power switch. Still nothing but static. But now that the poachers had fled, the signal wasn't being jammed anymore. They just needed to climb high enough to catch a connection. Jack pointed toward a ridge near the western slope. "Help me up there. We'll get a signal and call Sarah." Finn nodded, and together they began the slow climb, stopping often to check the herd below. Marlow watched them with steady, tired eyes, as though needing to confirm Jack wasn't leaving him again. Not after the promise, not after the battle. At the top of the ridge, Jack raised the radio and tried again. "Sarah, this is Jack. Do you copy?" A burst of static, then, Jack, we've been trying to reach you for hours. Where are you?" Relief struck so hard, Jack nearly dropped the radio. "Sector 4 Basin. We need medevac for 1 ranger and full veterinary team for Marlow. It's bad, Sarah, but he's alive." The pause on the other end wasn't silence. It was pure shock. "Jack, hold your position. We're coming. 10 minutes. Jack exhaled, shoulders sagging. "Copy." When he and Finn returned to the basin, the herd turned toward them. Not aggressively, just aware, present, protecting. Jack walked to Marlow slowly, talking to him with a calm he hadn't felt since yesterday morning. "Help's coming, boy. You're going to be okay." Marlow's trunk lifted weakly and brushed Jack's chest, a gesture so deliberate it stopped Jack mid-sentence. A gesture of recognition, of gratitude, of trust. Jack pressed his hand against the warm, wrinkled skin. "I wasn't going to leave you. Not then, not now, not ever." A soft rumble vibrated through the elephant's chest. Low, gentle, the first peaceful sound Marlow had made since the poisoning began. Minutes later, the distant thrum of helicopter blades rolled over the basin, scattering dust and bending brush. Sarah and her team hurried down the slope, eyes widening at the sight. 4 bulls guarding Marlow, all of them standing like sentinels of an ancient world that rarely let humans in. Sarah's voice broke. "Jack, you kept him alive." Jack shrugged weakly. "He kept himself alive. I just stayed." The vet team moved with careful reverence, administering antidotes, checking Marlow's vitals, speaking in low tones so the bulls wouldn't startle. And somehow, the herd seemed to understand. They parted just enough to let the humans through, though their bodies remained a protective wall around Marlow. Jack had never seen anything like it. He doubted he ever would again. An hour passed. The poison levels began to drop. Marlow's breathing stabilized. Finn's arm was bandaged, and Sarah pulled Jack aside. "You broke protocol," she said, voice half scolding, half emotional. "You put yourself and a trainee at risk. You didn't report in. You engaged poachers without backup." Jack nodded. "I know." Her voice softened. "And if you hadn't stayed, Marlow would be dead now." Jack blinked hard, unable to speak. Sarah sighed and shook her head. "You're a damn fool, Jack Turner. But today, you were the right kind of fool." Behind them, a sudden movement drew the team's attention. Marlow took a step. One slow, deliberate step, then another. The elephants beside him steadied him until he found his balance. He swayed, steadied again, then stood taller than he had since before the poisoning. And then, he turned toward Jack. Not by accident, not from instinct, but with intention. Slowly, Marlow approached him, just close enough that Jack had to tilt his head back to meet the giant's eyes. The elephant lowered his trunk, brushing it against Jack's arm, then along his shoulder, and finally across his cheek. A gesture Jack knew enough to recognize. Family. Claim. Bond. Finn whispered, "Jack, I think he's saying goodbye." Jack swallowed. "No," he said softly. "He's saying thank you." The herd began to move, leading Marlow gently toward the western ridge. The sun had begun its descent again, painting golden streaks across the desert, the same desert that had nearly taken them all. Marlow paused one last time, looking back at Jack, ear flicking gently in the warm wind. Jack raised his hand in silent promise. "Go on," he whispered. "Be free. Be safe." Marlow rumbled once, deep, resonant, full of life, and followed his herd into the fading light until their massive bodies became silhouettes, then shadows, then nothing but memory etched across the desert floor. Sarah approached Jack from behind. "You know," she said softly, "not many people get chosen by an elephant." Jack exhaled, the weight of the last 2 days finally lifting. "I didn't choose him," he murmured. "He chose to trust me. All I did was stay." Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder. "Sometimes, that's what defines us most." Jack watched the ridge long. After the bulls disappeared, the sun dipping lower with each passing second. Dust rose where their footsteps had been. The air still hummed with the echo of Marlow's last rumble. And Jack Turner knew this story wasn't one he would ever forget. Because some bonds didn't break, some promises didn't fade, and some moments, like standing between a dying elephant and the darkness, became the kind of truth a man carried for the rest of his life. The kind that changed him, the kind that saved him.